work session. We're going to discuss community solar projects, and we'll take some public comment if there is any. And it's mainly for information. We won't make any decisions today. It's just going to be an informational. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Fred Mitchell, and he'll lead us through this.
Well, great. Well, thank you. I'll try to lean up to the microphone because I know the acoustics in here can be a little challenging. So as Will indicated, staff has been reviewing opportunities for community solar projects, in part driven by customer interest, in part driven by what some of the other utilities are doing. We have some challenges because of our situation here in CLALLAM County, and we'll go through those challenges as well. So the district has a long-standing commitment to renewable energy. It starts with most of our power supply being hydro-based. I-937 or the Energy Independence Act has driven us to acquire some additional renewables. But really our customers have really made choices on their own, and our rooftop solar installs in CLALLAM County lead most of the counties in the state of Washington, such that we are close to maximizing our tax credit that's available to us for the production incentive. So we'll talk a little bit about that a little later as well. So we've identified a site that the district owns. It is on East Washington Street. It's approximately where the exit and entrance on the east side to Highway 101. To the right of the photo is the district's Johnson Creek substation, and the district owns the property there to the left. And so that's just an illustration of where we believe there's enough room and the topology of land would be conducive to a 75 kilowatt solar project at that location. Most likely the project would be a ground-mounted solar install with fencing around it just to protect access to it and so forth. And a 75 kW system needs about 9,000 square feet of area. So there's a little drop off to the upper left corner, but we think that with the topology and with the racking systems available that we can get the size and the number of units on there that we need for a 75 kW system. So there are two incentives for customers, both, whether it's a community solar project or individual rooftop solar project. One is the state production incentive. And the current rules for the state production incentive and the availability of that incentive are going to expire in 2020. So there's really 4 years left, 2016 through June of 2020. Then we have also that plays into the economics is the offset to retail rates. And currently with our net metering policy, it's a direct offset to our retail rate. So as customers utilize their solar energy produced behind the meter, they just consume and buy less power from the utility. And so the way that stacks up is the production incentive is approximately 30 cents a kilowatt hour for community solar projects. And these are for systems that don't have the added bonus of manufactured in the state of Washington and so forth. Now the production incentive for rooftop solar, the base is 15 cents a kilowatt hour. And so you can see community solar has the advantage of receiving a little higher incentive. One of the challenges, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later, is because we were about up to our cap in terms of the tax credits that we've been playing with the state, all of our customers, including the solar or including the community solar customers, will have a prorated incentive level, so it will actually be reduced below the 30 cents a kilowatt hour. But this is how it would stack up based on what we know today.
What's the chances these incentives will be extended?
So there is a bill in the legislature currently. It changes the incentive levels as well as extends the period for claims. And we don't know whether it's going to pass or not this year. Right, the proposal is that it starts out in 2016 with an incentive level for rooftop solar about 12 cents a kilowatt hour compared to the 15 under the current rules. But however, it guarantees a 10-year stream of credit payments. So that's the difference there. This chart shows the difference between using made in Washington components and just generic components that could be from out of state or out of country. Estimated project cost to be made in Washington because of the component costs are a little higher, it's a little bit more expensive. And then where's the break-even point? Well, for made in Washington, the break-even point is a little closer, 16 years, than when you buy components that don't have that added bonus of manufacturing in Washington. So our thinking is because of the high install of rooftop solar, we have almost 200 rooftop solar customers in CLALLAM County, that if we chose the higher incentive made in Washington, it would proportionally reduce the existing customers' incentive levels much more drastically. And we'd be up against the 25% cap allowed for community solar almost with a single project. So staff is moving forward with the idea, and we want to just test that, of not going for the higher incentive levels. The downside is it has paybacks that are out there quite a few years. Please.
Yeah, I guess I missed the slide that tells me what, the overarching goals, mission, objectives of the project is. Is it a demonstration project? Is it to show that it's possible? Is it to get a return on the investment? I'm not sure, how to balance the benefits that you are going to get from this project against, affecting the rate that you just mentioned.
Right. So the idea behind a community solar project is that it allows for participants that don't have the capital to pay for a rooftop solar system. So it would only be built to the extent that participants looked at the economics, looked at the values that they would have, and if a 24-year payback was attractive to customers and enough customers signed up, the district would likely go ahead with the project.
Are you going to describe how customers can subscribe to this?
Well, we will a little bit, yeah, so we'll get through that and we'll have a conversation around kind of the next steps and so forth. The thought today was to lay out where we think we ought to go, and then if it looks like an appropriate direction, then we'll engage our customers to see what level of interest there is and so forth. So this is estimates that we've gotten lead us to project cost of around $300,000. This is for the system that's not based on made in Washington components. And these are the line items that go into a solar install. There's fees with the city of Sequim, fencing requirements, interconnection. There's There's a little bit of money in there for O&M, but if you're going to extend this project out 30 years, there may be future O&M costs that an agreement with customers would have to describe how we're going to collect and pay for those costs. So this was our walking around estimate for just kind of moving forward and see what level of interest there is out with customers. So this chart shows we're estimating that there would be about 1,200 units available from a 75 kilowatt solar installation. And so this table looks at, based on the number of units a customer might be interested in buying, from 1 to 5 to 25. And we'll just kind of walk through the columns and describe what that would be. So a customer that wanted 1 unit might pay a cost of $250, so that'd be 1/1200th of the $300,000 investment. It's estimated that their share of the annual kilowatt-hour generation for the whole project, if they bought 1 unit, would be 75 kilowatt-hours. It's estimated that the annual state incentive at a prorated 30 cents a kilowatt-hour would be $22.42. It's estimated that the remaining 4 years of the state production incentive would yield the customer $89.69. It's estimated, based on our current retail rate, that their offset to retail energy purchases would be about $5.38 a year. And it's estimated that over a 30-year life, with some inflation on retail rates, about 3% a year, that the lifetime energy credit would be $218.44. So I'll pause there and just see if there's any questions, just in terms of how we lay this out on a per unit basis.
218 is today's dollars, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And they paid $75?
They would pay for 1 unit, they would pay $250.
Oh, okay.
And so if you add up the $218 for the 30-year of offset retail rate and the $89 for the production incentive, 2016 through 2020, you can see that they, over 30 years, it's a very small, but a positive cash flow. They get
Is it if you brought that back to present worth, would it still be positive?
I mean, it's
$218 over 30 years.
Yeah. And really what it shows is that if you were thinking of investing in this on a purely economic basis, you know, your money might be better off in the local savings bank at 1/4 to 1% interest, because it's really not overwhelming with these incentive payments.
Because interest rates go negative.
Right.
That's just okay.
Yeah, you can get, like, I was actually in a bank on Saturday, we actually got a
CD.
CD, it's about 1.5%. So that's not too bad.
So that's going to be, I think, one of the challenges as we approach customers about what their level of interest here, because what we know today is the production incentive will expire in 2020, so we haven't included any of those benefits post-2020. They only get 4 years of that production incentive. Quite frankly, the other risk is the risk to the offset of the district's retail rate. And you know, we've had conversations around what's the appropriate rate structure when you have more and more distributed generation on your system. And I think it's Minnesota, Austin, Texas, and now Nevada have rates that are based on the value of solar. And so it's not necessarily a net metered environment anymore where you're offsetting retail rate cost. You're offsetting, your revenue is something different than the retail rate.
That's why I was asking the question as to how does this particular project fit in the district's portfolio of competing projects for capital utilization? For example, this seems to have a negative ROI, right? If we were a business, it has a negative ROI.
Right.
And if interest rates are low, that makes it easier to justify. But if interest rates are high, that makes it difficult to justify, correct? So interest rates are supposedly going to be going up and wreck the world economy, but that's Janet Yellen's problem, right? And that's, the expectation is the tweaks have started and they scared some people. So the way it's laid out, it makes it difficult for me as a customer to say, okay, what am I really looking at? Because there are so many things that change. One of them has a 4-year period, the other one has a 30-year period. Yet the numbers are, it would be easier to look at it like how big a hole am I digging over the 30 years versus the way it's presented now. The way it's presented now tells me I don't want to touch this.
That's the same conclusion I would come to.
So your data is working effectively, but if you were to look at the total economic life of the project is more than 4 years, right? The incentives are 4 years, but the economic life of the project is more than 4 years.
Correct, and that's why we assume with some risk that there would be 30 years worth of offsetting of the district's retail rate to a customer.
Okay, but that means what it costs the district.
Well, again, with a community solar project, it's not the district's investment. So this is not a question, does the district want to invest in something that provides this level of return? The model is the district will find out if its customers want to invest with this kind of return. If there's not enough customers to buy 1,200 units at $250 a unit with this kind of assumptions or any other assumptions that a customer might want to roll into their decision making, the project would not go forward.
You're looking at this as a financial business plan, and basically, just as Fred said, there's a lot of interest in participating in solar projects. So the whole goal here is to give people an opportunity to do that.
I totally understand that right now.
And our ROI is 0. It doesn't come into play in this at all. It's actually the customers that will fund this.
Well, I understand that, and what I'm trying to get the data to the customers is that if you identify that the window to get a financial return is only 4 years long, and it's artificially 4 years long because of man-made rules,
Right.
then let's apply some force to those man-made rules and maybe get them extended, right? That would be one alternative that this project tells you want to start doing. You want to get that 4-year window go to 2035, especially as the cost per watt of solar approaches production costs of all other sources. At that point you're going, does it make sense? Pardon?
That's where this has to change, right?
Well, that's the deal. See?
Right.
And if PUDs, though, if PUDs come up with, we got to do it because it makes sense for all these other reasons. And the only reason it doesn't make sense is because you guys in Olympia can't get your act together to see the light, pun intended. That's where you have to go.
Right, but I think the important part is the district wants to see if there's customer interest. And what we've done is lay this out based on what we know today.
Right. Okay.
And, it's just an opportunity for customers to do something and maybe invest $2,500
Instead of 20,000.
instead of $20,000 to get an estimate of these kind of benefits plus the non-tangible benefits that customers might value when they invest in something like this.
And I think it's important that a lot of utilities have done community solar. Benton, for example, they're oversubscribed. Mason has one. Mason 3 has one. the same type of analysis as you did with some people.
Well, and however, what's different with the other utilities is they do not have the saturation of rooftop solar that we have. So they're not up against prorating a limited pool of incentives.
Well, see, that's another point, that's another friction point that says, like, we keep running into not technological limitations, but regulatory limitations. And how do we get these good gentlemen to pull their levers, to all those gentlemen over in Olympia, to start to say, look, it's not a good climate for the PUDs to have a backstop, because long term, we're seeing hydro projections that I don't know how y'all are going to deal with if hydro starts to go down in terms of you have droughts and blah, blah, blah. I don't know what the plans are. I mean, you all are looking at that 10, 15 years down the road. But if we start getting a bunch of these guys installed, and then old Tesla comes around with those power walls that are oversubscribed, and all of a sudden we've got a better way to deal with, And so I don't know how this fits into a larger strategy of Plan B for Bonneville to perhaps reduce production capability. Not willingness, but capability. Because Mother Nature says, no more water for you.
Right. So I can tell you that the utilities have made their concerns known in Olympia about the cliff in 2020 with these incentive payments going away. So there is proposed legislation that tweaks this and extends incentives and so forth. But we don't know when that would become law.
Which of the three folks are carrying this particular bucket? Manway, Behringer, or?
I don't know.
So this isn't on their number 1, 2, or 3 list?
Probably not. And
Solar, okay.
The state's having enough trouble just getting
education straight, that I understand.
Right.
That's so sad, but I'm not going to get into
You're
it.
going to mention our leaders, we support our leaders.
They're like this, I know. They're like this, I know, but they're more than I got. I got a phone call and that's it. Thank you, sorry.
okay, so this maybe boils that.
Yeah.
Am I right in what I'm hearing, that this isn't so much about people making a monetary investment, but more investment in local power production, just having it here?
I think that's an element of it, as well as just a philosophical investment. In other words, they value distributed local generation, not necessarily because it would make the system more reliable. Also would receive $5.38 per year, or $218.44 over 30 years, and that's the offset for the kilowatt hours they don't buy from the utility over 30 years at the retail rate. And again, I think an important point is the retail rate structure and design in the next 30 years may be quite different than what it is today. So that's an assumption that people are going to have to think about, whether they can really plan on that or not.
Is this based anywhere in the areas of solar intensity that you expect to receive in one location, or is this?
Yeah, the solar, the output of the solar system is more a regional estimate than any kind of study that we've done locally.
Right, there's been talk of allowing community solar projects on the eastern side where solar intensity is much higher. That doesn't meet the definition of local, but you can get more bang for your buck over there. So.
Yeah, I think you'd get marginally more. I don't think it would make a huge, it's not going to turn this into a much more.
No, it's not going to be profitable.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
Right. And really this is the reality of what an investment in solar looks like without the subsidies.
Without the subsidies. So remind me again, the kilowatt equivalents of the 1, 4, and 40. If I bought the one, I bought 1 unit, so I bought, what, a 7.5 or a 0.75 kilowatt?
You buy, the walking around proposal is the 75 kilowatt system would have 1,200 units. So 1 unit is 1/1200th of the 75 kW.
So we got 40 over 1,200 is how many kilowatts, right?
Well, capacity, because it's based on an estimate. I think it's, one of these slides has an estimate of the annual kilowatt hour production that we're estimating. Right, for capacity, and then you, let me see if the next slide. Here. Yes, so estimated annual generation is footnote 2. System generation is estimated at 89,688 kilowatt hours. So that's, that's like a plant factor of about 12 to 14%. You've got conversion efficiencies, and then you got the fact that solar it's not 24 hours a day.
On the east side, what's the cost factor?
I
I don't
think it's that high.
It's not that high.
No. Okay. So here's the Washington State requirements based on the State Administrative Code. Our incentive level, or our tax credit that we can claim, is based on taxable power sales of the district times 0.5% times 25% is the amount allowed for community solar projects. And with where we are now with incentives being paid, we believe in 2016, this year, we will begin proration of our $280,000 worth of tax credit that we can achieve already. So the maximum limit is the sales times 0.5% times 25%, but we're in a prorated environment, as we enter into this project. There's a $5,000 limit on household annual incentives, and the state production incentives are currently funded through June of 2020. Maximum size community solar project in any one location is 75 kW, and we've assumed that the energy generation credit for the life of the system, we've been assuming 30 years. There's some degradation of solar panels over time, but and we've tried to take into account what that is. But if we don't go out 30 years, it would be negative in terms of the cost benefit. So this is a look at where we've been and where we think we're headed. The middle column is the incentive production payment. So that's the amount through 2015 that we've actually paid out to our customers that have installed rooftop solar. So in 2015, we paid out $234,169, and our 0.5% of our taxable utility sales for that period was $261. So you can see we're getting close. We predict that in 2016 we'll hit that limit and exceed, and we think we'll have a calculated amount of $298,000 worth of incentives that we'd like to pay, but only $268 available. So that's where the rules and the state law requires us to prorate that incentive to all the customers.
So does that mean take 268 divided into 298, and that's what the rate you're going to pay?
Well, part of the rules are unclear about what factors you use for proration, and we kind of think that prorating based on the incentives that customers expected when they made the investment in the system is a good way to go, rather than prorating just based on kilowatt hour production. So what that means is customers that made the investment to buy made in Washington components, they've got the higher incentives, you know, would maintain that share of the limited pool of funds. They would be prorated down, but the proration would be based on the fact that they have a higher incentive rate because of the Made in Washington component.
Yeah, that's what I mean. 268 divided by 298 gives you a factor you can apply across the old rates.
Basically, yes.
Okay.
So, you know, really what this says is, and this is without the community solar project included in terms of our forecast, is that right? Yeah. So if we, you know, put in a community solar project that just speeds up that proration.
I'd kill it right there. I mean, to have, you know, I mean, if you're already saying the system is already going to cost you this year, and the system is broken from a regulatory perspective, and if we had this project, it's just going to add to the damage caused, i.e. your proration factor is going to be even lower, and you're not even invested in this community project, right? Rooftop solar,
Right.
sharing in that pool,
Right.
that will be significantly reduced by an additional 75 kW capacity, right?
That's right.
Why would I want my investment eroded because of what you all are doing late in the game?
Well, but you got to remember, it's not what we all are doing.
No, I understand.
It's what our customers
Well,
want us to do.
I mean, I was a customer 2 years ago asking for this and it didn't move. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, what kind of forces are you going to unleash? Because I don't know how well the change to start charging for meters on a fixed cost basis went over. I don't know if you've asked or polled your customers, where the solar customer now pays for the meter fixed cost. It's not washed with production. It's not credited. I always have a bill, whether I've used any electricity or not, from the grid. I always will pay. I don't know how well that went over, but that's an erosion of the return. Because before, it was all that was credited, no money left this pocket to go to your pocket.
Right.
Now, 24 bucks a month, gotta come to you, otherwise nothing happens.
Right. And that's really a factor of state law.
I understand that, that's why I didn't squawk so long.
Right.
But I was asking, what was the reaction from your customer base? Did they like having $288 a year from their bill gone?
Well, I think you were involved in the spring conversations at the board, workshops that we had.
I mean, state law, I can't change state law. That's why I was asking, who is carrying this at Olympia? Those are the guys that I'd have to start talking to a little more seriously. Because I thought there was enough going around in the movement statewide that Olympia would start waking up, but then the school did hit, and almost nothing ever gets, you know, nothing gets attention.
It's always next year.
Yeah, it's always next
They
year.
get themselves out of that hole.
They're worse than the old stereotypical manana, and manana never comes.
Right.
So, at any rate, that to me is an alarming thing for current owners, and it should be in our representative's hands, saying, look, we're in the red this year, and it'll get worse.
I
Unless you guys
think
change.
from our perspective, that message has been conveyed to folks in Olympia. I would suggest that also individual customers need to convey that concern as well.
Well, I'll get to this guy and get his customer list excited, because I'd say 80%, 90% is this, right?
Yeah.
So,
Big share.
yeah.
Okay. Well,
Ta-da.
so that's the end of the slides, you know, and we've had some conversation as we've gone through, and I certainly understand that, you know, the concerns that you raised, the ones that we identified, quite frankly, last spring when we had the conversation and had a boardroom with at least 30 rooftop solar customers.
They didn't understand it.
You got the proxy or?
And, you know, I can remember at those meetings informing customers that we were approaching our limit and that we were into a proration and that a community solar project would impact that. And the message that we got, and maybe the message is different if we ask it today, but the message back then was philosophically, us, at least those in the room, rooftop solar customers believe in solar as a local community resource. And we understand we'll get prorated. However, more community solar, more solar is a good thing.
Well, if you had said to me prorated, I don't know that I would have translated that to, we're going to take your 30 cent per kW incentive and multiply it by a proration factor less than 1.
Yeah.
And right now it's estimated to go to 0.75 in 2 years, 0.5 or maybe 6 by 2020. So factor that into your revenue streams, and it's very simple. Here's a little calculator, your total production, and there you are. What would have been and what it's going to be. And if we add a few community projects, here's the further depression. And you start showing graphs that go like this, and all of a sudden, see, you go, oh, because red stands out, and you go, well, I got to pay attention. But a downward fixing graph, unless you're reducing crime, it's probably not well accepted.
Or golf stores.
Yeah, golf stores. So
I think, you know, these folks on your hat are well aware of this, and we encouraged them last year that they, you know, as they make their pitch to customers, they should be telling them that this picture is what's out in the future now. I don't know whether that message is translated or not, and I can understand the motivation.
How would you like to cut your sales?
Yeah, that's
You know, it's wrong honest. I mean, from a purely selfish perspective, I'm rooting for Tesla to get his butt in gear and give me a Powerwall. Because to me, independence is the key. If I can live off of a 4 kilowatt battery bank with a 10 kilowatt charger, I've already proven I can do that for a long period of time. If I had a little more storage capacity and I got a generator, so my ideal is mostly I live off the sun, but that's me. And once you get power walls, you can do that. You know, you can do that very easily, especially if you have less than 4,000 square foot home and you're not trying to stream everything in town, blah blah blah. But that's not everybody. And if you start to stratify your market, some of us are further out there. They've gone so far as to also electrify their cars. They're very, very, very green. I'm a more of a light green rather than a dark fur green. You know what I'm saying? It's not that green. But this would kill me. I would say, wait a minute.
But you got to point out that people that rushed out to the solar and installed panels as you did.
Are you rushing out?
Well, okay.
Some
measured steps that you took. Okay.
I knew I wasn't going to make a lot of money.
Yeah, and that's not the reason you did it.
No.
But you still had an investment of what, $20,000, something like that?
Almost 40.
Okay, well, $40,000. We got 200 people that have done that sort of thing. We got 30,000 customers. So we have to do two things. First, we got to make sure that people that can't afford to participate in this, can't afford $20,000, they don't end up subsidizing people that can. And then, not directly through the PUD, they will through the incentives. But this, if it has any merit at all, it allows more people to participate that feel that they would like to participate in solar energy. So,
He's still saying, I'm still going to be losing money.
well, I know, but it's not about it.
Well, see, that's the thing, is that's why I was trying to understand the motivations behind the project. If it's to give people that might otherwise not be able to afford this, then it's another form of subsidy at a grand scale. Because you guys are taking the hit on the 300 grand out of your pocket, right?
Well, no,
Because you have to sell that, right? Yeah, but you make it all happen, don't you?
Well, we make it happen, but we would not move forward with the project unless we got a commitment from customers.
So you have to sell that.
fully subscribed.
Yep.
So you have to fully subscribe.
Correct.
And at $250 a pop for 1,200 units, it shouldn't be that hard to fully subscribe. I would be shocked. But when you put it that way, I wouldn't be shocked. You can't tell somebody, give me 250 and 30 years from now, you still have $218.
Well, we can tell them that because,
And expect them to give it to you.
well, no, I don't have any expectations about whether they're going to invest or not. The best I can do is lay out what the current rules are, and what we know, what the best estimate is, and customers will just have to make that decision. Now, we can help them understand some of the risks of net metering and full retail rate displacement over years and all of those things. You know, the Tesla Powerwall, I mean, that could be a game changer for electric utilities.
It has scared some into taking some really rash actions.
So there, in 30 years in the electric utility industry, we may see some big changes.
Yeah.
Please.
So I'm a new person moving into this PUD district, and I'm going to buy a house or I'm going to sell a house, either I'm leaving. How are we going to explain this to the customer? Because it's going to fly over most people's heads. And then what happens if I've been on this for 2-3 years and now I'm moving away?
Yeah.
Just stops?
So,
It has to stop.
those are some of the details. Our expectation and some of the models from other utilities do allow the transfer. So if you invested $10,000 and got a number of units for your house at 100 Prairie Street, and then you moved away in 2 years, you could either recover your investment through the house sale price, presumably, and transfer the benefits to the new customer. So that just stands to reason, and there are models for accomplishing that.
And if I didn't do that, I threw the $10,000 away and that's it?
Correct.
Okay, got it.
That's one of the problems with leasing your rooftop to some of these guys is that transaction. What happens to that? Oh, yeah, well, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, and I think they have a lien on your house too.
Yeah, that's why, anyway.
That's guaranteed.
Totally, that's why, here.
Yeah, one of the things that's happened recently is the Nevada Public Utility Commission has approved new rates for them that have higher customer charges, and the customers buy all of their kilowatt hours at the utilities regular retail rate, and they are given a credit based on the value of solar. So it's what does a solar contribution do, at various times of the day and various seasons of the year. And what's happened is Solar City and the other third parties that were operating in Nevada have picked up stakes and left because their model does not work in that environment.
The frailty of the whole thing is the regulatory model. I mean, photovoltaic is photovoltaic is photovoltaic. And if you have 20 kilowatts on your roof, you've probably got more than enough to live off of. Okay? Now, if you want to now get paid for that, that's a whole other kettle of fish. But solar works, right? I mean, it's achieved almost near parity with some utilities.
Do you have batteries? Do you have storage capability?
I was waiting for a little more intelligent system, so a little lower cost. So the Powerwall was one first. There are a number of other vendors, but in the meantime, I'm bridging that no Sunday with an 8,500 kilowatt generator and a small 2,000 watt inverter cherry pants. Hopefully, that'll save you most of the things.
So are you connected to the utilities distribution system?
Oh yeah. I have a net metering system.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I think your model works if you're not connected to the electric distribution system, but a vast majority of these customers remain connected to the utility system, just in case the sun doesn't shine, your batteries don't work, the generator doesn't work.
No, I understand.
And that's the challenge for the utilities.
And I understand that, but this particular version of that paints a very, you don't want to go here picture very quickly. And
See, that's why you paid the $25 a month.
Just to be looked up. This is presented just on the
That's for you guys.
regulations, present facts, and the analysis, and it's really up to the customers to.
Yeah. Well, what can I do to help to get that number bigger? The one on the far right.
Yeah, the bill that's, I got a bill number here. It's substitute House Bill 2346. And what it does is it moves the ceiling, so that's the number on the right column, from 0.5% of the utilities taxable sales to 2%. So that makes the pool a lot bigger. Now what it also does is that it moves the base rate for the production incentive from 15 cents down to 12 cents.
Do we know where that bill is? Is it in committee or, like I know there's on the energy committee?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sorry, what?
Okay, the cutoff was right.
Oh, okay.
We're coming out of committee.
Oh, okay.
2433? Or
2346.
might be close.
Yeah. So I don't know the current status of this.
Yeah.
But Friday was the cutoff.
I bet the Steve there does. So there's your contact.
Got it, my notes, yeah, I worked with him when he was
Yeah.
county commissioner here.
So I realize this doesn't, paint a real optimistic picture. Now, some of the utilities have built a community solar project made in Washington components, eligible for $1.08 per kilowatt hour, and had a payback of less than 5 years. And they sold out in less than a week.
Well, I mean, I took a 0.75 or 0.95 series of CDs, cashed them in, bought solar, and got 10% return. Why wouldn't I?
Right.
And it's real money. All right. Well, darn it. Do you make these available on the web for public meetings and stuff that people can go, oh, if I'd have been there, this is what I would have seen?
You can get my film, I'll give you the card.
Okay, thanks.
So next steps are, just wanted to get a read for if we're headed in the right direction.
It might be an idea to put this out there on our website. Since if we go forward with this, it's going to take some analysis and some study by anybody who wants to participate.
Right.
So it might be an idea.
Right, so next steps, if we're kind of headed in the right direction, would be for us to work with Mike Howe and do some community outreach and some education and, see how much interest there is in this kind of economics.
Y'all are going to be at the little Valentine's Day weekend.
The expo.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be there next week.
What a great place to, hey, here's proration. What's that?
That's the plan. We're going to talk about community solar.
Proration. Because you know it's going to happen, right? You're not going to change that outcome at all. So you might as well start the, what happened? Oh, we told you about it starting back at the fair. What are we doing?
Also an opportunity to maybe see how many people want to do this project, just this next weekend.
Hope it's not killed messenger. So.
Who's going to be doing, are you going to be there both days?
I'll be there Saturday.
Okay. You're going to be here Sunday?
I think Tyson will be there Sunday.
Right, so we'll have staff there
Okay.
to answer the questions. Yeah.
And then another question that you should ask yourself about the whole program is, where do the incentives come from?
I know where they come from.
Okay, just so
Look, if you guys were a private corporation, there's no question where the incentives come from. But you're not. They all come from right here.
in a roundabout way.
Well, it's either taxes or I pay my bill.
Yeah, but they come from the general public.
But we can call it revenue neutral.
Yes.
No, yeah.
Well, I also work for the PG&E in my internship here. I redrew a lot of their maps with the distribution facilities. They changed their monuments from this WP something to one like this. So they had to change all their map boundaries to turn them 20 some odd degrees to upstate them. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I would say, the one part about the tax credit I think is good is it's really a state program. And so if the state does believe in supporting renewables, the tax credit is probably a good mechanism to spread those costs throughout the state.
Doesn't the federal go away at the end of this year?
I think that's right.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
I mean, that'll wipe all that out. 30% is a huge hit.
Right.
Well, I heard the Washington lobbyists speak, I guess there is some extent of
The federal.
Yeah, but I don't know how successful.
Yeah, well, that's a real problem. I mean, you can prove anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when does the decision tree hit? Go, no go? When are you likely to say, yeah, we're going to build it, or no, we've definitely postponed it until better times? Or...
Yeah, I think in terms of timing, I think we'd like to roll this out, this first quarter, do some education and, get some initial level of interest. And then what other utilities done, basically just had a lottery, okay, so if customers are truly interested and want to provide a deposit, then we'll pick based on a lottery type drawing.
Yeah, I think, to answer your question, it's up to the public, it's up to PUD customers.
And these guys just not to find out this weekend. I mean,
Well, that would be a sampling, I don't know if it'd be adequate to base it on.
yeah, but we'll see.
I would encourage I'll give a call to Power Trip to see if they'll talk to their customers, because I know they communicate with me every once in a while to see, well, how's it going, and are you still happy, and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So, Power Trip users group, maybe, they might say, wait a minute. Especially if you do the proration, because you already have it, and you say, look, it's 0.7, it's 0.74, it's 0.6, and here you are. Right.
And we better check and see how that legislation is going, whether it even got out of committee last Friday.
We can do that.
The PUD Association can help me on that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's bill tracking and so forth.
They don't get that committee. But
It doesn't mean
first step.
it just means it goes for another month, right?
Well, great, thank you so much for
You're welcome. Yeah, that's all I have for today.
To be continued.
Yep.
PBD.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
How many times are you going through? Good luck. It's a know, right? Yeah, we have a good right next to Power.
Please.
I guess I missed the slide that tells me what, the overarching goals, mission, objectives of the project is. Is it a demonstration project? Is it to show that it's possible? Is it to get a return on the investment? I'm not sure, how to balance the benefits that you are going to get from this project against, affecting the rate that you just mentioned.
Right. So the idea behind a community solar project is that it allows for participants that don't have the capital to pay for a rooftop solar system. So it would only be built to the extent that participants looked at the economics, looked at the values that they would have, and if a 24-year payback was attractive to customers and enough customers signed up, the district would likely go ahead with the project.
Are you going to describe how customers can subscribe to this?
Well, we will a little bit, yeah, so we'll get through that and we'll have a conversation around kind of the next steps and so forth. The thought today was to lay out where we think we ought to go, and then if it looks like an appropriate direction, then we'll engage our customers to see what level of interest there is and so forth. So this is estimates that we've gotten lead us to project cost of around $300,000. This is for the system that's not based on made in Washington components. And these are the line items that go into a solar install there's fees with the city of Sequim, fencing requirements.
This is a work session. We're going to discuss community solar projects. And we'll take some public comment if there is any. And it's mainly for information. We won't make any decisions today. It's just going to be an informational thing. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Presidential. He'll lead us through this.
Well, great. Well, thank you. I'll try to lean up to the microphone because I know the acoustics in here can be a little challenging. So as Will indicated, staff has been reviewing opportunities for community solar projects, in part driven by customer interest, in part driven by what some of the other utilities are doing. We have some challenges because of our situation here in CLALLAM County, and we'll go through those challenges as well. So the district has a long-standing commitment to renewable energy. It starts with most of our power supply being hydro-based. I-937 or the Energy Independence Act has driven us to acquire some additional renewables. But really our customers have really made choices on their own, and our rooftop solar installs in CLALLAM County lead most of the counties in the state of Washington, such that we are close to maximizing our tax credit that's available to us for the production incentive. So we'll talk a little bit about that a little later as well. So we've identified a site here. Right, the proposal is that it starts out in 2016 with an incentive level for rooftop solar about 12 cents a kilowatt hour compared to the 15 under the current rules. But however, it guarantees a 10-year stream of credit payments. So that's the difference there. This chart shows the difference between using made in Washington components and just generic components that could be from out of state or out of country. Estimated project cost to be made in Washington because of the component costs are a little higher, it's a little bit more expensive. And then where's the break-even point? Well, for made in Washington, the break-even point is a little closer, 16 years, than when you buy components that don't have that added bonus of manufacturing in Washington. So our thinking is because of the high install of rooftop solar, we have almost 200 rooftop solar customers in CLALLAM County, that if we chose the higher incentive made in Washington, it would proportionally reduce the existing customers' incentive levels much more drastically, and we'd be up against the 25% cap allowed for community solar almost with a single project. So staff is moving forward with the idea, and we want to just test that, of not going for the higher incentive levels. The downside is it has paybacks that are out there quite a few years. That the district owns, it is on East Washington Street. It's approximately where the exit and entrance on the east side to Highway 101. To the right of the photo is the district's Johnson Creek substation, and the district owns the property there to the left. And so that's just an illustration of where we believe there's enough room and the topology of land would be conducive to a 75 kilowatt solar project at that location. Most likely the project would be a ground-mounted solar install with fencing around it just to protect access to it and so forth. And a 75 kW system needs about 9,000 square feet of area. So there's a little drop off to the upper left corner, but we think that with the topology and with the racking systems available, that we can get the size and the number of units on there that we need for a 75 kW system. So there are two incentives for customers, both, whether it's a community solar project or individual rooftop solar project. One is the state production incentive. And the current rules for the state production incentive and the availability of that incentive are going to expire in 2020. So there's really 4 years left, 2016 through June of 2020. Then we have also that plays into the economics is the offset to retail rates. And currently with our net metering policy, it's a direct offset to our retail rate. So as customers utilize their solar energy produced behind the meter, they just consume and buy less power from the utility. And so the way that stacks up is the production incentive is approximately 30 cents a kilowatt hour for community solar projects. And these are for systems that don't have the added bonus of manufactured in the state of Washington and so forth. Now the production incentive for rooftop solar, the base is 15 cents a kilowatt hour. And so you can see community solar has the advantage of receiving a little higher incentive. One of the challenges, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later, is because we are about up to our cap in terms of the tax credits that we've been playing with the state, all of our customers, including the solar or including the community solar customers, will have a prorated incentive level. So it will actually be reduced below the 30 cents a kilowatt hour. But this is how it would stack up based on what we know today.
What's the chances these incentives will be extended?
So there is a bill in the legislature currently. It changes the incentive levels as well as extends the period for claims. And we don't know whether it's going to pass or not this year.